Wow. How you doing down there? Don't know who you are, but hey.
Looks like Kashina. Is that right? Kashina?
Ah,
Yeah, you
okay.
give me a thumbs up. Kashina, yeah. We got Kashina, Brother Tatum, Mary, and Tina.
All right. So tonight I'm here, the First Lady Erica, y'all know me, with this Mozone. Um, Tuesday night, the first, and we're talking about human trafficking. It's very important, and finally, people are really starting to talk about it. And I'm so glad tonight to have Mrs. Jan Edwards here, the president of Paving the Way Foundation. I
Miss. I am Ms. Jan
are,
Edwards.
yeah, they're a
There is
fierce
no
foundation.
misses.
Oh, even more powerful. I'm sorry. More
Oh, good.
the power of one. But she is the president of Paving the Way Foundation, and this is a fierce foundation with disruption. You know, they're disrupting the cycle of child trafficking around the globe. Jan has over 25 years of executive and marketing experience, and she's worked with Warner, Bright House, with the United Nations and international groups. With Paving the Way, they've educated over 13,000 youth and adults over the last 3 years. She's been featured on NBC and multiple podcasts, iHeartRadio, all over as an influencer on the prevention and education, for child trafficking and other subjects. She's been in Orlando Magazine's Woman of the Year, the Woman on the Rise Community Impact Leader in 2019. Jan is a writer, co-director, producer of an award-winning film called Trapped in the Trade, and it's been featured on CNN. Tamir Boggs, this young man, I saw him on Facebook, and I had seen his story all over. He wasn't able to make it tonight, but he had saved a 5-year-old girl from someone who had been snatched. He chased a vehicle on his bicycle. So unfortunately, we won't be able to get to talk to him. And then there was she's the Mrs. Sybil White. She was a woman I found on Facebook, and she was talking about her abuse, and she described it in this poem. She describes it in colors of the days and the stages that she has. But the most, she's just amazing because she keeps telling her story to help other people. And even though her family is, some parts of her family have actually come to attack her while she's helping other people, just telling her to get over it. So I really thought it was important to talk to someone like that who'd been through the abuse and came through the other side. She still struggled, but coming through the other side to be able to talk to other people. And, here we are. Sometimes it is, it's scary to tell your story because other people are going to reject you, and they want you to be quiet, and they want you to kind of live by their standards, and maybe they're embarrassed or they have a problem with it, but not allowing you to speak your truth. And we're going to listen to her story. But the first thing I'd like to know is, Jan, you've been doing, you've been with Paving the Way for 3 years. What brought you to this point? What made you start with Paving the Way? What made you start?
Actually 7 years.
7?
Yeah, we've been doing this for 7 years. And, I have a business background. So, I did market research, and really when I came into the market, I really looked for what was missing that would make a difference. And the story to be told, right, is I was invited to the Get Health Summit up at the UN, and I met this extraordinary man. His name's Dr. Mahari. He works up at Vanderbilt and runs a neurology clinic. He's a neurologist. And, have you ever been to a conference or a meeting and you see someone or you meet someone and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to talk to them. That's how this kind of was for us. We literally exchanged cards, and then we exchanged texts, and then we exchanged emails. And on the emails, and I said, hey, I look forward to talking with you. And he's like, yeah. I said, we're, going to Ethiopia next month. This was in a February. And I said, have a great time. send pictures. And he sends me an email right back and says, do you want to go? Well, it's not every day you get invited to go to Ethiopia. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. So my mom was sitting across from me at lunch. My daughter was sitting next to me, and I'm telling them, what's happening. And my mom, of course, being a mom, she's like, you're not going, are you? She wants to keep her kids safe. And my daughter's like, you're going, right? So I went home and I did the math and booked a ticket. And it was there that I witnessed, really, that I think I really understood what human trafficking was. Just for a moment in time, we were coming home from a day in the mission field, and I looked over and there were 2 older men and 2 younger girls, and it just didn't feel right. That feeling in your stomach, what I'm talking about?
Yes.
That just didn't feel right. And so when I got to my sponsor's house, I, shared with him what I saw, and he's like, oh yeah, that's human trafficking. And I'm like, hang on a second, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, it's human trafficking. I'm like, what are you talking about? I couldn't get it. You got to get this. Is 7 years ago. And he's like, Jan, we have 4.5 million orphans in Ethiopia. He goes, we're the #1 source of human trafficking in the Middle East. I was like, wait. I said, you're telling me people are selling people? He's like, yeah. He's looking at me like I got 2 heads. And I'm still having a hard time wrapping my mind around this. And I said, wait a minute. I said, I just couldn't quite be with it. He goes, Jan, this is a $150 billion industry. Where have you been? I'm like, well, I live in Orlando, happiest place on earth. We don't talk about things like this. And it was really right there that God just laid it on my heart. And when I came home, I did some research and I discovered that Florida has the 3rd highest number of calls to the National Trafficking Hotline. Now, there's the front side of the hand and the back side of the hand for that, right? The front side of the hand is we have the 3rd highest number of calls to the National Trafficking Hotline, okay? Which is actually a good thing because it means all the organizations have worked really hard together to increase awareness about human trafficking. That's actually a good thing. But the back side of the hand is we're having to make phone calls, right? So human trafficking is happening and people are picking up the phone and calling. So that's how this journey began. And I know a lot of people. I may not know a lot, but I know a lot of people and I like to do my research. And so I started asking around, and I talked to the FBI, I talked to Homeland Security, I talked to undercover police officers, and I talked to, more importantly, survivors. And I asked them all the same question: what's missing? The presence of which would make a difference. And they all said awareness. They're like, no one knows this is happening. Well, I've got my background in marketing and media, right? I'm like, that's something I could take on. So that's really where the journey began and what led me to writing and producing the film and led me to creating a curriculum to educate students. We've educated over 13,000 students and adults in the past 3 years. So we've been busy.
Amazing. So over this time, you've gotten to work with lots of survivors, like you said. Do you keep up with them over time? Have they been,
Well, I work with a handful of survivors because, see, the thing about, I'm going to kind of tie it into abuse in human trafficking, because most victims don't realize they're a victim, especially if you're a child. You just think that's how life is. You just think that I get beat or I get raped, and that's like, this is happening to everybody. They have no frame of reference outside of their own life. And so, same thing with human trafficking victims. They don't self-identify. They really don't have the concept of what's happening to them. It could actually be different. And, a lot of victims, and they'll even say this, they're like, I didn't know I was a victim. I didn't know what was happening could go any differently, because the perpetrators do such a great job at manipulation and coercion and threats that and telling them, well, you're not lovable, and I'm the only one that'll ever love you, and your family will never accept you again, feeding them these horrible lies that over time they start to believe. And so they have it that this is the only life they can ever have. And this is the only man or woman, right? There are female traffickers that will ever love them. So they're trapped in this vicious circle of thinking that's the only thing they have available, and it's not. And until they actually see something else is possible, that's when the miracles happen, and they choose to leave. You talk to any survivor and they will say, I chose to leave. Even if they're rescued, for them to stay out of the life, it's a choice for them because they see something else is possible.
So you've also gotten to work with the different safe houses around the area. You were talking about that.
Well, I don't work with them. I don't do I'm on we all know each other. I'm like Switzerland. Okay. I do prevention education specifically for youth. That's our target. Title I middle schools is kind of that's our lane. However, because I'm a huge collaborator, my background's in business. That's how you get anything done. You can't ever do anything really that's magnificent alone. Well, one person did, but even he had 12 disciples. So, he gathered people around him. So, it really does take a village to do this. And I've worked really hard with all the other organizations to create a collaborative environment. And so I don't work with them, but we know each other. And if I need something, if I've got someone that, I know needs to start into the process of being, restored and need a safe house, I know who to call. And that's what I do.
Resources, basically, like the network of resources. Yep. Towards the end, I would like to actually share that type of information so that if you see someone, you suspect something.
Yeah, I'll give you the number. I'll give you the number throughout our conversation, because it's important that people have the National Trafficking Hotline number in their phone. Because you can call it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's 100% anonymous. And, that call can actually save a life. If you're finding someone being shoved into a car, you want to call 911. But the National Trafficking Hotline is 888-3737-888. And you want to put it in your phone. And if you see something, I don't want you to say something. I want you to do something. Pick up that phone and make that call. And the first question they'll ask you is, are you safe? The second question they'll ask you is what's happening and why are you calling? And you're saying, I'm at the XYZ convenience store in this corner and this corner. And, I see an older man and two younger girls and it just doesn't feel right. My guts, my spidey senses are going off. And they'll ask you to describe the car, the people, everything. And then they'll generally either connect you right with 911 or they will make that call.
So I'm going to share a few stories.
Sure.
One, myself, I was in Publix, and as I walked in, I was babysitting a young girl. She was maybe about 6 or 7. And I saw a man there towards the front, and he looked like he worked there. When I was in the back, I saw him in the back kind of standing there with his hands on his hip. Then when I was leaving, I saw him standing up front again. And I was like, man, he's all over the place. This guy's everywhere. When we got to the car, we were putting the groceries in the trunk. He actually pulled up to me in the Walmart parking lot over by Universal. And I thought, this is very creepy. And I know that he's just not looking at me. I had this feeling that he was not looking at me. His intention was, hey, let's exchange numbers, let's hang out. And it wasn't for me. What do you glean? Or what would you say?
Well, it could have just been a creepy guy. I'm not a mind reader and I wasn't there.
Right.
And you did the smartest thing you could do, which is trust your gut.
Yeah.
Put your groceries in the car and you got to go.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me a picture of, somebody's like the back of their SUV and it said 1F, 1B, and it meant one female, one baby in the car. And took a picture of it, sent it to me. They're like, is this real? And I do work closely with law enforcement. And so I sent that to one of the officers that I work with, and I'm like, is this real? And he sends a smiley and laughy face back. He's like, no, this is not real. So because this is such a hot topic right now, more and more people are starting to talk about it, are starting to raise awareness, and are quote, quote, experts, right? I was at an event last week and I had a poster for an event we have coming up in November. And she goes, oh, are you with Save the Children? And I smiled, I go, Save the Children's a hashtag. I said, I actually do that on the daily, you know, talking to parents and educating kids. That's what we do is we educate kids and the importance of that and the difference that makes. So, you know, and there's a lot of people, there were supposed to be marches all over the country, and somebody sent me the link to that website, and I'm looking at the website going, hang on. I said, there's no founders on here. There's no information about who started this organization. It says nothing about who they are, but they have a donate button and they're organizing marches around that. Well, I don't know who that is.
Right.
I've never heard of you before. And look, I love the fact, like, you've no idea how much I love the fact people want to take an action. You know, those of us in the anti-trafficking environment, it's like we've been screaming at the top of our lungs for decades and no one's paid attention. And now finally, I tell people, it's kind of like, do you remember Horton Hears a Who? Do you remember he had the little dust thing, you know, the little flower, and he's the only one that could hear people going, we're here, we're here, we're here. And there was that one kid, and finally the one kid came up and said, we're here, and then poof. That's what I feel like has finally happened is there's such a huge awareness between the Epstein arrest and the, you know, Ghislaine Maxwell arrest and the Peter Nygaard arrest and all of these things that keep being busted around the world, by the way, right? It's not just here in the United States, that there's more and more awareness. It's like, thank God more people are aware. Now then, as great as marches are to raise awareness, there's really only a couple of things that can alter this, okay? One is you get your brave on and you have this conversation with your kids, because 90% of predatory behavior happens online. And where are our kids going to school right now?
Online. Their classes are getting interrupted by perverts.
Yep, you know, and you think, even if you're working from home, if you're facing that way and your kids are facing this way and your laptop's back to back, you have no idea, right? You have no idea what they're doing on the other side. So I had an interview with Rick Root, who's the president of the Florida Association of Legal Investigators. He's like, no, put your kid right next to you so you can kind of lean over and see what they're doing on there. I'm like, that's a brilliant tip, right? As parents have got to get their brave on to talk to their kids. That's the easiest and simplest thing anyone can do. You know, I give people facts because it's what your brain can hang on to, and it encourages conversation. You know, I can say Florida has the third highest number of calls to the National Trafficking Hotline. You can go look that up on the hotline website. You can go look it up. The average age is 11 to 14. You can go look that up too. You know, in the state of Florida, DCF publishes a report every single year. It comes out in October every year. We had almost 2,200 calls to the Florida Abuse Hotline specifically for human child trafficking. So I start with facts. It's like, just start with a fact. You're going to open the conversation and people are going to do one of two things. They're going to go, yeah, I kind of heard that. And you're going to say, yeah, isn't that interesting? What do you think? So now you've got this dialogue going, right? Because now you can exchange information. You can be like, oh, let's look it up. You know, you can use all the tools to really gather more data for yourself so you can really get a better understanding of what human trafficking actually is. The movie Taken has done more damage to what we're trying to do than any other film because it doesn't look like that. Less than 2% of people are kidnapped. 60% of trafficking is done by a family member. So these kids are going to school. These kids are going, you know, participating in sports, and in between being sold for sex. Right? So that's the first thing you can do, is have a simple conversation with your kids. The second thing you can do, again, well, put the hotline number in your phone and use it. The third thing is be involved in legislation. Be aware of legislation that's happening in your state and in the country. Right now there's two bills, one's in the House and one's in the Senate, to have human trafficking awareness, prevention, education be across the entire United States. That's a miracle. 3 years ago when I started this, when I was on CNN, and one of my best friends who drove with me up there so I wasn't by myself. So scary being on CNN, I'm just gonna let you know. I talked to his mom. It's a longtime friend of mine. I talked to his mom. She's like, oh, we're gonna take the film out to LA. And I'm like, no, that's not what this film's for. It's solely to have people be educated. And she goes, well, why do you want to have that? Why is that? Why is that important to you? And I go, look, I said, my goal is to have human trafficking awareness and prevention education across the country. 3 years later, here we are, right? Which is pretty much of a miracle. But, you know, you can call your representative and you can call your senator and have them vote yes, have them move this to the next committee. Because you have a bill in the House and a bill in the Senate. It's the only way a law gets made. So you have your people support those. There's the Earn It Act, which keeps technology companies in check because they're the ones that actually host the material. So we want them to be held accountable, holding that material that's child exploitation. And so you can call your representative and ask them to support the Earn It Act. Those are the actions that we can take that will actually make the difference. Marching, it's good. It raises awareness, all about raising awareness. But we actually want people to take actions that forward this and make the difference we're out to make.
One thing you said was about the stickers. And sometimes we put out too much information and make it too easy. You know, like putting your names on the book.
Oh my gosh, when you, like all the family, like the little family, like they have the Star Wars little family thing and they've got the little stick figures. It's like, that's just telling a predator, here's what lives in my car and follow me home.
And my dog's name is Micah. So come on, Micah, you know, like, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah. And I get it. You know, you want to let people, like, you're proud of your family. So understand that. And, you know, sadly, over time, I've actually had to think like people think such that I can avoid what happens. You know, I tell people I've read too many Tom Clancy novels.
So there's the stickers. And then, like you say, with the computer, I mean, before my son he's a teenager now, but before I had my son, I had already been seeing, like, on ID channel, parents whose kids, they just befriend someone online.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea what your kids are talking about in chat rooms.
Nope.
And one of the things that stood out, they had those acronyms like POS, parent over shoulder.
Yep.
So I actually, I'm like, my son was just born, I like printed out the list, like, yeah, I got the list, you know? Like, I know. You're not
well, and it changes all the time.
Right. Yeah.
They come up with new acronyms all the time. And I just posted an article on my Facebook page from Bark, bark.us. It's a great app for parents to use to download to put on their kids' phones and their kids' laptops that monitors who they're talking to. And what I share with parents is you don't ever want to do that without having a dialogue with your kid. You don't, because that breaks a trust that is going to take something to get back. And that's why having these little conversations along the way, and then when you're ready to have that conversation, it's like, look, remember all those little conversations we've had? They know, they remember. You know, middle schoolers get it. High schoolers get it too. It just looks a little different. And college students totally understand what's happening. And they're still surprised, like they're still shocked at what's happening, and more importantly, how prevalent it is. And then they're really empowered about what they can do. And you sit down and have that conversation with your child and say, look, it's not you I don't trust. There are people out there that do not have your best interest in mind, and they pretend to be something that they're not. Now, your prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed yet. You're not going to know. You're just not. And it's got nothing to do with your intellect or whether I trust you or not. It's you just don't, your brain's not fully developed yet. That's why I'm here. It's my job. I'm the bumpers in the bowling game of life to keep you safe. That's my job. And so I'm going to put this on your phone to keep you safe from predators. So if something happens, you start to engage with someone that you're not quite sure what to do, I'm right here. I'm right here by your side. You don't have to go this alone. You're not designed to go this alone. That's why we have parents. And it really starts to build this great trust and rapport between the parent and the child, because now the child has a safe place. So if something does happen, somebody makes a request for an inappropriate picture, or someone threatens them, they already have a great relationship with one of their parents, and they can be like, Mom, it's happened. now what action do we take? Now what do we do? You know, and now you've got this safe place where kids can tell you what's happening, and then you can actually do something about it.
I like Roblox. My son plays Roblox, and I like the fact that if you try to type numbers in Roblox, it blocks it. If you write a bad word in Roblox, it blocks it.
Mm-hmm.
What I do notice is sometimes they'll say, follow me on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of say Facebook and tell you what their name is and kind of get you off of the safe space into.
Absolutely. Well, and Roblox too, look, anyone on this call can make up a fake profile.
Right.
You can pretend you're a 7-year-old kid.
Right.
And start to bond with all the other 7-year-old kids. And then, right, all of a sudden we've gone from Roblox and this has happened so many times, and there's been articles about it of, you know, you're playing Minecraft, you're playing a simple video game, and now all of a sudden you're over in a chat feature, whether it's on Facebook or Discord or Instagram, and you're chatting with someone, and you think you're chatting with someone your age. And I share with people, it's like if you and I were at Wimbledon, right? And all of a sudden they said, Erica, come down and play, right? And you're up against Serena Williams. Who would win that game?
Wow,
right?
yeah, okay, because
and so you've got this, you know, middle-aged adult engaging with a 7 or 8-year-old child. Who's going to win that battle?
Right.
They know what to say. They know how to manipulate them. They know exactly what conversations to have, and be like, oh yeah, your mom is mean. Oh yeah, your dad, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, your boyfriend, right?
That.
Whatever that is.
A teen that was baited out of their home under the guise of, you don't have to put up with that. You can come and stay with me and I'll help you. I'll get you a car. Mm-hmm. And her school registration ended up getting changed, and she was lost for a couple of weeks, but luckily made it back home.
Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing for parents, is that parents want to have their kids' social media passwords. And again, it's not about, I don't trust you. It's not about that. And that's something you're going to have to say again and again and again and again. Because my daughter, you know, when she was younger, I'd say drive safely. And she'd, oh, I am safe, Mom, you know, typical teenager stuff. You know, or I am safe. Or she'd roll her eyes and like, sweet pea, it's not you I worry about. I go, at the 4-way stop, you're probably the only person not on your phone. You're going to be the one that's going to not have the accident because you're actually paying attention. That's why I say drive safely. It's not that I don't think you're capable. I want you to be aware of the other people around you. And she got it, you know, and it's the same thing with video games. The same thing with mobile apps is your parents, like your best frontline defense against these people. And you've got to have that partner in this space. It's not that I don't want you to be online. It's not that I don't want you to have fun with your friends. I want you to be safe. And I'm going to do everything I can, because it's my job as a parent to keep you that way.
Most definitely. Another thing I used to tell my son too is don't go inside people's houses, because if you do, you leaving, Nancy?
Awesome.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Nancy. You can follow me on Jan Edwards. I'm on Facebook, and Paving the Way.
Hold on. I'm unmute, asking you to unmute. You got to find the unmute button, Nancy.
Okay.
There you are. Hi.
Okay. Praise the Lord.
Yay.
Oh, Jan Edwards. Okay. I didn't see. And what is it? Paving the Way?
Paving the Way. Yeah. All of my social media handles are at paving and then the letter W.
Paving the Way. The Way. Yeah. I'm supposed to be working, but I told my wonderful friend Erica that I would be on tonight, not knowing that I was going to be signed up to work, but that's okay, because I'll get in there when I get in there. I only have to work till 9 anyway, so.
Good.
Yeah, it was so amazing, because yesterday I had to go to work at the time that they were airing that program, so I had to cut it off. Right. Well, today they aired it at exactly the same time with the same woman. telling about the fact that they're going all over. And then what they're doing is also, they said that what happens is the drug dealers have, they're invested more in child trafficking and getting a hold of girls because they can reuse them over and over and over and over and over, instead of getting product, instead of buying product or creating drug product. They can use these girls over and over. And they said the average girl that is trafficked lasts about 3 to 7 years before she's dead.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. 3 to 7 years.
Yeah, so if you're trafficked at the age of 13, you won't see your 21st birthday.
No.
Yeah, and less than, I was with the CEO of Samaritan Village today, and we talked about, even when you rescue girls, less than 5 to 7% stay out, and it's not for lack of, they just, whether they're addicted to drugs and they're not quite sure where they're going to get their next fix, like who's going to buy my cigarettes, they're the baseline, where am I going to sleep? All of those concerns is the very first thing they think about.
Oh yeah.
Not, I'm going to be rescued and not be raped tonight.
Yeah. It's because it's a survival mode. They've been programmed into the survival mode.
Yep.
And also because they have that addictive personality as well. They want to be loved. They want so badly for someone to love them. And these pimps, these people, these people that
predators.
are controlling them, the
predators.
The predators have lured them in with the idea that I love you, I care about you, I'll take care of you, I'll make sure that you have what you need, I'm looking out for you. And because I've been ministering to the homeless for years and years on the street, so I've dealt with prostitutes as well. And I'll never forget the one girl that showed up at church, and she gave her life to the Lord and went down the street. And the next day we found out she was in the hospital. Her pimp found out she was not on the street. She was in the church, and took a hammer and beat her up with a hammer, and she was in the hospital. And so do you think that we ever saw her again? We never saw her again. No. I don't know if she died, or if that she was just too fearful to ever get in touch with anybody again. So I know exactly what we're talking about as far as, and I remember two beautiful, beautiful girls. They could have been models. They were young girls. They were gorgeous. They could have had any job. They were just absolutely gorgeous. And they were out hooking in front of my mobile at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I went out to talk to them, and that time Tom and I were still married, and we both went out and talked to him. And my husband said, "You can have a job as a model. What are you doing?" But they were obviously, they were both addicted.
Well, and that's the coercion that they use.
Yes.
It's if you want this bag, then you got to bring me $1,000.
Yeah.
And they'll bring them right to the edge of DTs. They'll bring them right to that edge.
Yeah.
And, I've never been addicted to anything like that. So I don't know, but I've watched it. Like, I've seen it. When I actually volunteered a long time ago in high school, I was in the psych ward as the secretary. So I watched it. I saw what happened.
My God.
So it's not something anybody wants to experience twice.
No, I've experienced and sat with a person going through withdrawals.
And so the pimps will bring them right to that edge, and they're like, "You want this bag? You go bring me $1,000." And they'll do whatever it takes for however long it takes.
That's right.
Them to come back and get that bag. And that's the thing is they use, it's not, you don't become a drug addict and then end up selling your body. It's generally you're forced to take drugs.
Yes. Like I said,
because the mind can't handle it. It's you're talking personal trauma at the highest level, over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, I know. And they do this with not just girls but boys too.
30%.
A lot of boys whose fathers are not there for them.
Yeah.
targets. They're used as, targets
Mhm.
to, because truthfully, every person is looking for somebody to love them.
Mhm.
It's built into us to
It
want
is.
somebody to love us.
It
And
is.
so children are Satan's target from as
Mhm.
little as he possibly can get them. And
Mhm.
once he's destroyed, like I was listening to this young man, and he was talking on another program, and he was saying, that what I had, he was a star on Haven,
Mm.
and his grandfather was Indian shaman, and he
Oh,
was
wow.
talking about his parents were very abusive, so he left home very, like, about 12, 13 years old, and was on
Wow.
the streets. And he was telling this woman that he did whatever he had to do to survive.
Mhm.
And he said, of course, I lost years, and I lost something that my innocence, I can never, ever, ever get back. I was forced to do things to live, just to
Survive.
survive, and I can never get that back.
Yeah.
And so his life turned out to be good, but it didn't start out that way at
Mm-mm.
all, at all.
No. And that's, most um, uh, children that have been abused, they're like the primary target,
Oh
because
yeah.
what love and pain is kind of collapsed together.
Yes.
They can't
Yes.
distinguish the two,
No.
so it's natural if someone talks to them abusively, oh, they must love me because that's what my, mom or my dad did.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many facets to it.
Mhm.
When I was in high school, I was in sociology, and I had a lot of homosexual friends, both male and female, and I interviewed them all. And almost in every single case, they could remember when they had been sexually molested by someone of the same sex,
Mhm.
when they were between the ages of, I'm talking about, what happened? I lost you.
Oh, we're
Um,
still here.
um, Between the ages of 3 to 5, most of them. One boy
Mhm.
was raped at 10, and multiple rapes. He had to sit in the courtroom and speak out against those who had raped him. He had to testify at 10 years old,
Mhm.
and every one of them had been molested, and every one of them came to the conclusion that people wouldn't have done this to me if I must be gay.
Mhm.
I must be gay, or they wouldn't have done that to me.
Yeah, there's a
And this
really great
thing
book.
enters them.
There's a really great book called Men Too. I interviewed the author. She interviewed 13 men that had been abused, and our bodies literally are machines, right?
Hmm.
You don't tell your stomach what enzyme to use to digest it. You don't tell your spleen when to send, hormones out, or your adrenals hormones out. It just does it automatically, right?
Right. Yes.
And so our body sexually responds that way too, right? So if someone touches you a particular way, your body's going to respond. You don't have a say about it.
That's
And so
right.
what happens is all these young men thought, well, I reacted, so I clearly must have liked it, therefore I'm gay, or therefore I wanted it.
Yes. And that,
And to actually uncollapse that and go, so my body did what my body did. It's got nothing to do with whether I liked it or not.
right. That's right.
And it's the same thing with girls, because
I
the
was going to
men,
say, same thing with girls.
yeah, is
Absolutely.
there's a biological reaction. We can't control it.
Hmm. That's
And
right.
the person doing the perpetrating assumes, oh, well, they must like that.
Yeah.
Well, no one likes that.
That's right.
And then
So,
the pornography tie-in to this is
oh
right
yeah.
there. You've
That's
got little
right.
boys at 11 years old watching pornography, thinking that's what love looks like, and then they get in their first relationship, and that's what they do.
Yes.
And then the girl's like, well, I guess to have a boyfriend, this is what I have to do. So you
Yes.
have this cycle of abuse that continues, and then they have a baby.
That's right. Yeah.
And then the
And then
cycle
they
of
go
abuse
get,
continues.
and then they go get an abortion because they don't know what else to do, because now they're stuck with a guy that don't want them
Yep.
and don't want the kid, or they're afraid to tell the guy about the kid.
Yep.
And there's just so many. It's all about destroying children. It's I'm a minister. I'm an ordained minister.
I picked up on that.
So basically what it is Satan knows that if he can destroy a child, and that's why Jesus said it's better for a millstone to be tied around the neck of the person that brings offense to a child and have him drowned in the sea than to have done this to a child.
Yes.
If he can get them mentally scarred and steal their innocence, he can control them and manipulate them their whole life and use them up for whatever he wants to use them for. And that's why there's so many in the homosexuals that commit suicide, so many people in the different, they've got the idea of that they're different genders, split personality type of effects that happen because your brain can only endure so much, and a lot of times it will compartmentalize and put barriers up to keep you from dealing with the pain and the issues that are, as a child, you were not able to deal with.
Right. Uh-oh. You're on mute, Nancy.
Okay. Nancy, you're on mute, but wow. Yeah, I mean, a lot of what she was discussing is very, very much important, very much relevant. And you were saying before that the abusers are close to home. So I had heard that
it's close to 60%.
I had heard some cases that in Tampa and in parts of Florida where some kids are being used, but they're still coming home at night.
Yeah, most kids are. Like I said, less than 2% are kidnapped. So you've got kids that run away, but most trafficking victims live at home, go to school, and they're pimped out either between school's out and, time to go home for dinner, or Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, or they'll come pick up the kids at school, like after first period and bring them back for last period. So they'll take the bus home. And that's why educating the kids in the schools to be really watchmen for one another is so important. We worked with a middle school up in Seminole County, and we educated 350 of the kids. And we came back 5 months later to check in, because I'm really committed. Our education does a couple of things. One, it interrupts a behavior that's potentially dangerous, right? That they're clear. You don't get in your uncle's, sister's, cousin's, brother's, daughter's car. Like, I don't care who they are. If you don't know them, you're not getting in their car. And on the other side, that they actually take an action, right, that might make a difference and help someone. And 60, these are middle schoolers, okay? 60% of these middle schoolers shared what they learned with a friend or family member. 60. That's huge. To get a middle schooler to talk about anything's a miracle, but for them to talk about this with their family or a friend is a big darn deal. And they know that they're their brother's keepers. And they know that if they're going to interrupt this, they actually have to do something about it. So these kids also knew that if they saw something off, they needed to tell a trusted adult, and they did. And that's the thing is when we educate our kids, they come home and they talk to their parents, and then they talk to their teachers, and they talk to their friends. So we multiply that education by, up to 5 people. You educate 1,000 people, you're going to actually make a difference and impact 5,000 people. And the more people we talk to this about, the better off we are, because we're going to be able to interrupt it and disrupt the cycle.
I mean, you can barely get a kid to come home and talk about homework. Everything's like, It's dragging. It's like pulling teeth to get them to talk about anything. And so just repeatedly, like you said, reminding them like, I love you. I care about you. I really want you to know this. And it's not because I think something of you. It's because I want to protect you from the world.
Absolutely. Well, I want you to be aware, you know,
right.
and at the same time, there's that fine line, right? Because I don't want to totally thrash your innocence. You know, I don't want you walking around not trusting the world. I don't want you walking around being afraid of the world. I want you to be aware. And the conversations we have is, you know, that gut feeling that we talked about at the very beginning. It's, you knew there was something off with that guy at Walmart. You knew, right?
Right. There was
and
also
so it's that gut feeling, and we train our kids along, you know, when they're really early, because we've all done this, right? You're at the family reunion, the block party, and your favorite uncle or your whoever aunt, you know, whether they're blood aunts or blood relatives or not, are leaving, and as a 5-year-old, you're shoved over to them to hug them, and you don't want to hug them.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And you remember, like every single time I tell this story, everybody's got that person in their head. They're like, yeah. And I said, the moment your parents said hug them anyway, they actually took away your right to how your body, what happens to your body. And when I'm, you know, talking to the kids, I'm like, look, on behalf of all adults who didn't get that, I apologize. You have every right to tell your parents, I don't want to hug that person. I'll shake their hand. I'll wave bye. I'll be polite, but I am not going to, I don't want to. It's uncomfortable for me, and you be okay with it. And if they got a problem with that, you send it to me. It's okay. Aunt Jan will have the conversation. And they all knew what I was talking about. And I said, so that's that gut feeling I'm talking about. So if you're out and about and you get that gut feeling around people, you just turn around and leave. There's no need to interact. There's no need to doubt yourself. You just trust yourself. That right there can save somebody's life.
Because you said that, I'm going to go ahead and play this video from Sybil White. This is she's a survivor, and like you said, most people don't get trafficked. It's right there at home.
Yep.
And you have to be careful who you bring into your home.
You do.
I'm going to go ahead and. So we were in a group and we were talking about abuse of children, human trafficking, and child endangerment and things like that. And I saw your post, and basically I saw you shared a lot of poems. You talked about the color. What was it called? The color?
Oh, it was basically me describing my abuse through like my emotions, but my emotions were portrayed as colors.
Colors. I thought that was amazing because you did a lot, and I was like, wow, she's so brave, and she's just out there and sharing with people. And I know that can help people. Just being able to share your story might help somebody else to deal with it, or maybe they could go seek help, or maybe it's something they never talked about. So I thought that was fascinating. But then I saw one of your posts, and I should have looked it up before we got on here, but your post basically was discussing the fact that one of your family members sent you a personal message on your phone. You woke up to a text message, and what had happened?
Basically, I had come out again publicly about my abuse, and someone had shown my family, and so they messaged me to basically try to make me stop talking about it.
Right, like they said, get over it, as if it was, just so easy. Yeah. You could just not talk about it. How did they even find your message? Like, how did they? Are you friends with those people on Facebook? The people that sent you the message?
I am not. I have them blocked. They made a new account. My kids are very attached to me.
Mom's number one. So hey. So yeah, we had gone through the trouble of basically spying on you, just to see what you were saying. Let me ask you, how long have you been talking about your abuse or sharing about that information? Is it
I have been I've been open about it since about 12. I told my family around the age of 8, but they didn't believe me. And so basically I shut up about it for a couple of years, but then I just started talking about it openly. But basically people came and went from the house a lot. So whoever was the oldest in the house was the one that was doing the raising. And most of the time you were by yourself.
Yeah, spending a lot of time by yourself. Everybody's working and going back and forth. So how old were you when the abuse started?
I don't remember. It's my earliest memory, but I'm guessing around 3.
And was this like physical, like beatings, or was this sexual nature, or?
It was sexual abuse.
Right. As far as you know, were there other kids being abused as well, or?
Oh, I know for a fact that there was. One of my siblings was also abused, and he did run a Boy Scout group for a couple of years before he met my sister, so I'm sure something probably went on there as well.
Okay, so the person that abused you, you're saying they ran a Boy Scout group, or?
Yeah, they were a leader for a Boy Scout group.
Oh, wow. There is a class action lawsuit right now for the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you said when he met your sister, she was raising you at the time, or?
Yeah, she was helping. During the beginning, before my dad left, my mom was there a lot, but after he left, not so much.
Right. So yeah, we don't want to like get, I don't know. So this abuser, this wasn't a family member. This was basically someone who was let into the home, like under the guise of a relationship. Because I think a lot of people don't realize that too. Sometimes you as a lady or as a gentleman, people befriend you and they date you, but they don't really want you. They're really looking at the children.
Right. Yeah, he is my brother-in-law right now. They got married when I was about, I want to say 5.
Wow. And even though you've exposed it, the person's still.
Yeah, he's still part of.
How did you get to the point? How many years till it was over? How did it stop?
I'm guessing around 3 when it started, and when it ended, when my sibling came forward about it, I was around 8.
Okay. And I'm gonna stop there because I think that is a you pretty much get the gist of the story, the family member. What is it that people need to be looking for when it comes to, and I asked her, she said, if anybody looked at signs of me, I had lots of yeast infections, there's bedwetting, there's things like that. There were signs. This was not something that just happened and it was like, oh my God, it's such a surprise. What are some of the signs people need to be looking for when it comes to the children?
Well, it depends on the age, right? At an early age, if if you've got a child at 7 years old that has an STD, okay. Yeah. There was a little girl up in Volusia County that had 12 abortions. Over a period of time because her uncle was raping her, and he would slip something in her juice or her milk, depending on her age, and she'd had 12 abortions. So, after the first one would think that they would notice it, but 12 years old is a very early age to have an abortion. Okay. So, prolapsed, bedwetting, hyperactive aggressive behavior. A lot of people think that's, they're ADHD. No, they're acting out in a way that the only way they know how. Becoming very secretive, becoming very quiet. If their, personality's way out here and then all of a sudden it's here. Or they become over-sexualized. All of a sudden they're wearing low-cut tops and high-cut shorts and, and that was never something they ever did before.
But
New groups of friends.
Because she became into sexting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And sending photos
you bring a very important point up, Erica, and that is, in the state of Florida, it's illegal under the age of 18 to do any sexting. So the moment if you're under the age of 18, and the moment you take an inappropriate picture, you've now produced child pornography. The moment it leaves your phone, you've distributed child pornography, and the moment it ends up on your phone, you are now in possession of child pornography. So I tell people, turn off your Bluetooth if you're not using it. Turn off your Air Connect, right? Because people can send you pictures and you not even know. And the next thing you know, you've got pictures that you would never have on your phone. Now, in the state of Florida, if you are caught and convicted, and it doesn't matter what age you are, Erica, you can be, it's for all the way from a class 1 misdemeanor to a class 3 felony. So a 15-year-old could be a registered sex offender, and that go with them for the rest of their life. And because we've so over-sexualized our society, everyone's doing it, so kids think it's normal. Kids think it's part of it, and it's not. That's not normal. It's not okay, because you're putting yourself at risk, because the moment that picture leaves your phone, you can never get it back. And people will start to use it as a way to coerce you. They'll start to use it as a threat, and they'll start to use it to manipulate you. Well, you sent me this picture. Why won't you send me another one? Well, if you don't send me more pictures, I'm going to post all these pictures on your social media, and your family will know, and everyone will know what a blank you are. You did it willingly. I didn't make you. That's the kind of manipulative conversations they have. And remember, your prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed yet, so they believe them. And parents get angry. It's like, no. Your child was manipulated by a grown-up. It's not their fault. Should they have known better? Sure. Just watch TV. Look at some of the videos on YouTube. I can list some artists, and for, like, when I saw these videos, that's soft pornography. And they're sitting on YouTube, half naked women.
Oh, are you talking about cuties or?
No, I don't want to name the artist. We're not going to talk about that. No. But that's the kind of stuff that our kids are watching.
Yeah.
And this over-sexualized thing. Yeah, it's become, okay, look, I'm all about people owning their body. You know what? Awesome. But that doesn't mean you want to give it away. You have value. And that's the biggest thing for our little girls to know, is you have value. You are not your body.
I know that some people have, some people's parents maybe don't go inside their room or look inside their phone. I don't believe in that.
Nope.
iPhones, luckily, like, I can see if you get a photo or download a photo, I can see your photo, and
Yep, absolutely.
See how many texts you made. I can see, I encourage people to do that. Like your kid's room, I don't know what's private about that. It's in my house.
Yeah, it's in my house. I pay the bills. Absolutely. You're lucky I give you a door.
Yeah.
But the other piece of that too is, in order to create that safe space, there's got to be an opportunity to create it for them so that they can come to you, and with parents, what I encourage them is, the moment your child opens up to you and says, Mom, I did something I probably shouldn't have done, as much as you're going to want to react, you can't, because immediately the child's going to think it's their fault. It's not safe. They're never going to come back to you with anything again. They just won't. How you react is everything. And I share with people, professional NBA referees are trained to hold their whistle blowing before they blow out with their whistle, to hold their breath for 3 seconds to make sure what they saw connected with their brain. And that really is a call. It really is a foul. It really is a whatever. Same thing with parenting. You just got to pause for just a couple of seconds and realize this is a child that's been manipulated by an adult, and it's not their fault. It's got nothing to do with whether you taught them right, whether they know. It's got none of that. Just, it's got nothing to do with it because all their friends are doing it. It's socially acceptable. They want to fit in. So they're going to do things like this, or they're going to think they're in love, right? But he loved me. He sent me a picture. Well, do you really know that was him? No, you don't. You don't, because they're so trusting, and predators know this. And so I tell parents, I go, you've got to take a breath in before you say anything and go, honey, it's okay. We're going to get this taken care of. You can't get angry at the kid. You just can't. You can get angry, just not at them. And then I'll share with the parents, like, look, you can say, look, honey, I'm really upset, and I'm not upset at you. I'm upset someone took advantage of you. It's my job to protect you, and I couldn't do that. And I'm upset at me, not at you. And I'll flip it, right? For the kids, I'm like, you got to give your parents space. They're human. They're going to have a reaction, and it's not personal. They don't know that you didn't know. They don't know. So you just got to give them some space and let them react, and get that they're not reacting at you. They're reacting that someone's hurt their baby, and they're mad.
Right. Another thing I'd read about was, here we are, you got adults pretty much grooming children for sex, and the issue is how many of them are actually getting HIV and herpes by the time they're even 18.
Mm-hmm.
They've already been, cut down with STDs, permanent STDs by the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing I was going to just tell you about, I don't know if they're still doing this, but I had met a girl when I was a long time ago when I was in Job Corps. She was on a bus. She was on the bus with two gentlemen who they said that she was going to get a job. So she was riding across to a whole nother state with them. She was 18, but it just didn't sound right to me. And I thought, oh my God, let me get your mom's name and number. And it was nothing I could do, because I was riding from West Virginia to South Carolina on the Greyhound. And I thought, oh my God, I don't think I'm going to, I don't think she's going to make it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and look, they,
Be an old thing.
if you could have the best life, because here's the thing, human trafficking knows no socio, demo, geographic boundary. You and I could be trafficked just as easily as a 14-year-old little girl or a 16-year-old little boy, as a 75-year-old man, right? It knows no boundary. And if you have the perception, right, that you have a bad life and someone promises you a better life, and remember, this is subtle and over time, much like how do you boil a frog and not have him jump out? You start him in the cold water and you turn the water up. It's the exact same philosophy.
Yeah.
So she thinks she's leaving to a better life, having no idea the life she had was probably pretty good. Like, yeah, I don't know, like you can't assume, but that's where the cycle of abuse, it's like, well, at least this is a new abuse, and it's not this abuse.
Well, I don't want to keep you all night, but I do want to get the information. What is it, as far as see something, say something, do something?
Yeah, well, see something, do something, right? So yeah. I want people to put the National Trafficking Hotline in their phone. And I'll give you the number, and we can put it in the comments, but it's 888-37-888. I'll say it again real slow. 888-37-37-888. It's the National Trafficking Hotline. You can call it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can also text free. I think I've got the text number in my phone. Let me look it up while we're looking. Because I know a lot of kids use text, right? So yeah, you can text free or help to 233-733. Info, help, or free to 233-733. And, they'll send you information immediately. And I also ask people to put, because in the state of Florida, we are all mandatory reporters. If you're over the age of 18, you are a mandatory reporter of abuse. So you can put the Florida Abuse Hotline number in your phone. So for anyone under the age of 18, and that number is 862-2873.
And this is physical assault, sexual abuse.
Any abuse, any
Yeah, I don't
child
like
abuse.
any kind of abuse. I'm telling. So
Mm-hmm.
there's some people that already
Any
know
child
that
abuse.
they
Any
don't
child
like
abuse.
me because I will tell.
Yeah, oh, yeah, no, I've called the number several times. You know, because I go out and train and I see things, and you know, someone tells me something, I have to report it. I'm a mandatory reporter. So
I tell people too, if you really wanted to do something about it, if you want to learn, who are some organizations they could call to help? Because people, maybe you want to send money, you don't know who you're sending money to, like you
sure.
said.
Yeah, well, you know, you can always look. We've got all kinds of resources on our website, which is pavingthewayfoundation.org. We've got a parenting toolkit. We have
A new class.
New class. We have a parenting training class. We have, you know, how to keep your kids safe, and in there is what to do if your kid goes missing, if your child goes missing. And we have a signs of human trafficking you can download. So we have all kinds of articles, videos, all kinds of stuff to watch there. Another great tool is the Polaris, the hotline. You can just type in human trafficking hotline, and they've got all kinds of statistics on there if you want to have data. And you can just go to Google and type in human trafficking Florida, or human trafficking Georgia, or human trafficking, you know, Alabama, and you'll find local trafficking task forces. There are, you know, Florida. I'm super proud of our state. Our attorney generals have done a really great job at cracking down on laws. And we also have the statewide Council on Human Trafficking. We also have task forces across the state in almost every county. And they do really good local work. So find a local task force and see if they've got a website or a Facebook page. And you can, and generally, I'm not going to say all the time, but generally any organization that's associated with the task force, because the task forces are run by law enforcement. So if you're on a task force that's run by law enforcement, you've been vetted. I can't promise it 100%, but you can, it's a really good source. And the other thing too is, like, you know, because I'm so vocal on social media, people think human trafficking Jan, right? We don't do rescue. We do prevention, education, and awareness training. It's what we do. And we also have great relationships with people around the country that do all the other things. And so I always ask people, what do you want to do? What are you called to do? And I'll put them in touch with the organization. You know, United Abolitionist does triage for all of the hotline calls. So, you know, they can want to be trained, they can answer the hotline. Samaritan Village does restoration. They can always, you know, work at the thrift store or make donations to the thrift store. Let me try to think of a couple other ones. One More Child does housing for children ages 10, human trafficking survivors ages 10 to 24. One Purse gathers purse. You can have a purse party, and the money raised there goes to scholarships for female adult survivors. Love Missions has Pallet Coffee up in Sanford. You can go buy a cup of coffee, and all the proceeds go to helping. They have a safe house, and they're also opening a center for education and training survivors. Beatty Girls. I wear a lot of jewelry from Beatty Girls. They do ethical Larimar jewelry, and they have a safe house down in the Dominican Republic. I work with dozens of organizations, you know, so if you're in a different state and you don't know who to call and you want to make a difference, just, you know, send me a private message in Facebook and we'll connect you. You know, Operation Underground Railroad, of course. You know, there's several, it's Beatty, B-A-T-E-Y girls.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the Bate girls down in the Dominican Republic. And, you know, Shared Hope International, they're an international organization. And I invite people to get involved locally. Because for me, I want to know what's happening locally. I want to make sure I'm making a difference locally. And all these organizations do a variety of different things, and you go to where you're called. you know, I have people that will get in touch with me. I'm like, what do you really want to do? And they're like, oh, I really want to work with survivors. I'm like, well, I'm not your girl. Let me give you a couple of organizations and you can reach out to them. You know, there's other people like, oh, I want to, you know, I've been trained on the suicide hotline. I'd love to work on the hotline. Great. You know, go talk to Florida abolitionists, you know, Samaritan Village. They want to make a difference. They've got clothes to be donated. They have a thrift store. So, you know, we all work together, and that's
Find the need and fill the
yeah.
need.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this. And because I'm kind of like Switzerland, so I point people in the direction that they're called to. And you know, and people can always just, you know, I tell people there's 3 simple things you can do. The first thing is to pray. Pray for us, pray for the victims, pray for the survivors. Prayer is the easiest thing to do, and it doesn't cost you anything but a few moments of your time. You know, 2 is to find an organization to volunteer with, right? Find something that calls you, even if it's, you know, 2 hours a month. It's 2 hours that, you know, maybe it's sending out thank you notes or sending out emails or sharing on social media is something really simple you can do. And the last piece, most of these organizations operate on donations. Find one you love and be a regular donor. And look, $10 a month ends up being $120 a year. People can do something with that. So the thought of, well, I can only do $10 or $20, you know, that over time you get 50 of your friends to do that. That makes a huge difference. That helps safe houses. That helps, you know, get crayons and markers for us because we do poster projects with our kids. That puts gas in somebody's car to drive from point A to point B to go talk to people. That, you know, gets a bus ticket for a survivor to go home. So every little amount helps and every big amount helps. So there is no, oh, I only have. No. You and 10 of your friends do that together. It makes a difference. And people can follow us on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We're at Paving W. So they can follow things that we're doing when we have classes, when we have courses, we have events. We actually have an event coming up in November 20th. It's going to be Lights On for Children, where they can purchase a blue light bulb, and we're going to turn on our lights Friday, November 20th, to let children know that it's safe to come home and to shine a light on this horrific crime. And the more people we get involved, the more we can raise awareness, because people are going to be like, why is your light bulb blue? And then they can say.
That's right. Talk to the kids, talk to the kids, talk to the teachers, talk about it. Keep it a secret, put it out there, and share this information. Look it up, get yourself educated. I appreciate you so much, Jan. You're so awesome, beautiful. I'm so glad that you were able to spend time with us, and I'll hopefully be able to post this later on Facebook and share with my friends in these different groups. And people, if you care, get out there, get your hands dirty if you can, and if you can't, like she said, donate.
Yeah, pray, donate, share, learn, educate.
Okay.
Everybody can do their part. Well, thank you so much, Erica. It was really a treat being with you tonight. And your friend Nancy, that was great.
Yeah, Nancy, that's my cat baby mama.
Aww.
She took care of my cat for me for like a year. People say there's a better way to say that, but I say I like baby mama.
No, she's your cat grandma. I get it.
My cat godmama. So on Thursday night, on the 3rd at 7 p.m., I'll be talking to Dr. Katrina Hutchins. And what the significance of this is, she has an organization called I'm God's Girl for Real. And with everything that's going on with riots and people having political discussions and fighting and people getting in arguments with masks in the store and all this drama going on around us, how do you focus on God and doing the right thing and staying in his grace? And I just thought it would be a great idea to have that conversation with Dr. Katrina, because that's her focus, is being God's girl. So even if you're a guy, I'm sure you could have fun and, you know, learning maybe some scriptures or things to hold on to help you kind of keep your cool so that you don't melt down, and just kind of stay focused and centered. Come back to your center. Especially now, because we need it. It's hard to even focus on business or work, or sometimes hard to focus on your kids, you know, and just staying sane. So I just felt it was going to be a great topic, and I hope you all can join me. And I thank you so much, everyone who was here tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Erica.
Thank
Love
you.
ya. See you later.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.